Welcome to the SC Navigator training. This is your first page when you log in to SC Navigator. You'll have your widgets with all of the information that you want displayed where you want them. In the top left, you have your quick navigation that takes you to the most important areas of the software. And you'll have your main menu button that takes you to all the areas of the software. I'm going to get started with a new move-in. We'll go to Quick Navigation, New Customer. We can also go to the main menu, Customers, New Customer. From here, we will fill in the information. First name, last name. We have an address. We have a city, state, and zip. You can see those can be pre-filled if you'd like them to. You can require as much or as little of this information as you'd like. I'll go ahead and include a phone number on there. The internet section will want to make sure to have their email address on there. The email address will be used for things like their digital lease or their receipts, any kind of contact going out. The username and password is for their online payment account. They can set that up themselves, or you can create it for them here. You can also choose their statement method. You can set them up for auto pay. You can set them up for auto pay here, or you can fill it in later. As well as custom information. These are just some examples of custom info. We can set up text fields, date fields, drop downs to record any kind of custom info on the accounts. At the bottom, we get into the leasing section. If you know the unit you want to rent, you can just type it in and it'll find it for you. Or you can click on the Find Unit button and grab one from the list here. We have the filter option, so if you know what type of unit you want to rent, you can grab this from the drop-down and it'll show you only those types of units. I'll grab this one and we will assign it to the selected unit. We have our billing plans here, initial charges and credits. If you have admin fees or security deposits, these can be added here at the time of move-in. We can also have these automatically populate for you. The billing plan on the unit, that's going to be the rental rate for the unit. As it is a 5x10 climate, I can use this character here to expand the discounts. We can check them off for a recurring discount or even a move-in special discount. And if we highlight the billing plan, we can edit it and we can change their price right here. So if this person, we know that they're a friend or they have an existing unit, you can lower their price instead of a discount. That way it'll just log as being a lower rate instead of a discounted rate for how you need it on your reports. We can also add any extra billing plans if you intend to sell insurance or any other kind of recurring monthly billing plans. You can add those as well. At the bottom in the estimated transactions, we can see everything we selected above, and we can give a preview of the total balance before we move forward. We have our admin fee, our prorated rent from today to the end of the month, the $25 off move-in special, 10% recurring discount, and the prorated insurance from today until the end of the month. When you're satisfied all of this is how you need it, you can click Save, and we'll move on to the next step. Now you may be asking, what about the whole month? When you're charging a prorate, you may need to include a full month rent as well. We can set that up so it automatically adds for you after a certain threshold number of days. Or here at the payment screen, you can click Edit under Prepay and add one extra month. And this will have it calculate the next month right there at the move-in payment. We can see the previous balance, plus we can preview, it'll add the recurring discount, a full month of rent, and a full month of insurance. I'll click Save. Now our move-in payment screen here has the prorated month, plus the full month's charges afterwards. Under payment information, I can select payment type. It can be cash, money order, check. Of course, these will just log in the system as, payments taken. You can also select credit card or bank draft, and the payment will go through the integrated payment platform. And if you have a payment swiper device there, you'll even have an option for payment terminal. And that will allow you to tap or swipe a physical card on your terminal there. All the information typed in here for credit card and bank draft is all still encrypted. It goes through the back end through the payment processor and is tokenized. So there's nothing to worry about there. I'm going to go ahead and post my payment so that we can move forward. All right, we have done a move-in and we've posted our move-in payment where we collected the prorate plus the first month's rent. And because we had an email on file, that receipt is emailed to the customer automatically. The next thing to look at is working with our existing tenants. From Quick Navigation, I will go to Edit Customer. This is the same as going through the main menu, going to Customers and Customer Search. On this Customer Search here, we can search on their name, their phone number, unit number, email. They'll leave you a voicemail, send you an email, but they don't tell you who they are. But you can look them up through here. And the name field is pretty powerful. It can do partial searches. It can search on their first name, last name, and the company name on the account. So if a company is renting multiple units, you can just put in the company name, and it'll find all of the accounts that are renting under that company. You can also do partial searches. So if someone's name is spelled uniquely, you can put in part of their name, and it will still search for them. We see this tenant here has multiple units across separate accounts, and this account with no unit. That means this is a vacant record. We can still open them up to do a new move-in. And if you want to not see these vacant records, you can check off Hide Inactive Users, where you can hide those inactive people. I'm going to go ahead and open up one of these accounts so we can take a look. The first page here is the overview page. In the top left corner, we have Make a Payment, with the Make a Payment button right next to the current balance. The balance here is the combined balance for both units on the same account. So if you manage to get one prepaid and one past due, this of course would show the difference between the two. And the payment screen for this account, we can actually choose which units we want to pay for. We can choose how much prepay to add on each unit. And we can even edit the apply amount over here so we can split the payments if we want to take a partial payment or if we want to control how that payment is applied between the two units. Everything else here on the payment screen is the same as we saw before for the move-in payments. The quick messages, this is for one-time messages that you want to send to your tenant. Of course, things like your digital agreement and your late notice and the online instructions are all automated to send out. Perhaps you'll have a friendly reminder that you want to use when you're sending your collections. If it's someone's first time coming late and you want to decide to send them a friendly reminder, you can grab that one from the list, click Send, and however that notice is set to send out, be it a print job or an email, it will generate that notice for the tenant. Next section is the contact section. You'll see the primary contact info or the billing contact info. Billing contacts will be a special type of contact that shows up on the front page and gets invoices and things like that. I'll show you that a little bit more about that on the next tab. Here we have their contact info. We can click on SMS chat next to their phone number so we can chit-chat back and forth with them. Of course, they do have to be opted in. Now, the SMS messages, you can have those automated just like late notices where it sends out automatically. And you can also come in here to just send directly back and forth. You also have the option to click on their email address to send them a one-time email. Just like with the SMS, you can have them automated or you can send them out manually here. Though, of course, the email is one way. When they reply, it will go to your normal email inbox. On the next column, we have our security deposit section. This tenant does not have a deposit, so it's not displaying. Just like the balance, it is combined for both units. So if both units have a deposit, this would show the total of both units. The co-tenant section is a bit of an advanced feature. We really just use that for splitting autopay between two separate cards. We can make separate accounts, save two separate autopay cards, and we really will get to that only if you need to use it. The bottom section here, we have the units section. We have this add unit button, which will let us do an add move-in to the same account. This is good for existing customers, even past customers who've already vacated. You can pull them back up, do add move-in or add unit, and it keeps all of that same user info at the top. We start with the section to see if we need to update the email, update their autopay if needed, any other fields, and then it's just like the regular move-in. You can grab a unit and go through the whole process to rent it to them. It'll just link the two accounts together and keep all the same contact info. We have the report, transfer, and move out buttons right here. Report will let you download a full ledger of everything that happened on that account since they moved in, all of their charges, all of their payments, as well as any notes that are on the account. The transfer and move out are pretty self-explanatory. You'll click on transfer and it lets you transfer the unit. It'll do a prorate from today's date to from the old rate to the new rate, from the beginning of the period to the end of the period. And move out will, of course, just walk you through the vacate process. Next is the user info tab. On the general tab, we have username and password first. This is their online user account. Now, they can make these themselves. They can get an email with instructions where they have a registration code. They can use the forgotten password feature, or if they're just having trouble, you can come in here and edit it for them to make sure it gets to be where it needs to be. Before I show the rest of the form related to this username and password, at the very bottom is the switch to customer view. For anyone who has an online account set up, that button will display and you'll be able to see what they see when they log in. They'll be able to see each of their units where they can expand the details to see their full history. They can download their past receipts. They can download all of their past statements. They can go to their account info to update their info. We have automated payment method is for their own auto pay info. You can give them the option or not to do this. If you want to let them update their auto pay info themselves, you can. Or if you want to lock them out, we can change the settings so all they can edit is their own password information. When they click on Pay Now, they will be able to choose which units they want to pay for, and it shows the total balance. They cannot do partial payments through the online portal. They can only pay whole amounts. They'll check off the unit with how much is due for the period, and they can add whole prepay months. For partial payments, they'll need to go through you in the office. When I click Next Step, we'll see they can select their method, and they can go through the process and finish the payment. You will have this return button in the top right corner. We can click on that. They will not have this return button, only you will have it. That will take you back to your page where it loads up all of your widgets and everything like that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and load my tenant back up. Okay, so that was the user info. We're going to take a look here at the auto pay method. When this is set to net, that is really an accounting term. It just means you'll be sending them a statement and expecting money back from them. Credit card or bank draft is how you'll turn them on to autopay. So really net is off for autopay, and then credit card and bank draft will set them to use that method. When you turn credit card on, you will have this draft day custom field that shows up. By default, it's going to be the monthly bill day, which will be whenever their rent is due. So if they're due on the 1st, it'll run on the 1st. If they're due on the 15th, it will run on the 15th. If you have someone on a fixed income like SSI, and maybe they don't get their checks until the end of the month, you can always set their monthly bill day. They don't get their checks until maybe the 3rd or the 4th. You could set the monthly bill day to the 3rd, and their card will not run until the 3rd of the month. Sure, they can still get any late fees if those are in there. Maybe if you set that a little farther out, it'll still charge the rent on the 1st, but the payment will go through on the 7th, if you push that forward like that. Maybe if your late fees hit on the 5th, they'll still get the late fee, but it will not charge their card until then. If you want to change their draft day, that'll be on the lease tab a little later on. The rest of the info here is just custom fields. Some of these were showing on the move-in screen. You may want to log callback dates, promise to pay dates. Any kind of custom information that's on the user will be found here. The next two tabs that are important are credit card and bank account. These tie into the autopay. So when they're set up for autopay, this is where you'll save the actual autopay card that gets used. The Contacts tab is where you can add extra contacts to an account. You can add a alternate contact type, and we can set it up so that they can get duplicates of late letters with, a care of line. It'll say, dear primary contact, care of, alternate contact, that kind of stuff. We can set up billing contacts so that all of your notices will go to the billing contact. This is popular if you have a business renting. They may want the owner's name on the lease, but they'll want their invoices and statements to go to the accountant. So you can set up a billing contact, and that's where the statements will go to. The rest are just so you can kind of log info on the account, someone's authorized access or an emergency contact, that sort of stuff. Next tab is the account activity. This is the full list of everything on the account. We can see their full ledger going back until the time they moved in. At the top, we have a drop down to get between the different units on the account. If they have vacated units, they will still be available in this drop down so you can see the histories for your vacant records. We have the Create Charge and Create Credit buttons at the top for making manual adjustments. I can click on Create Charge to add a charge. Let's say there was a mistake. They should have gotten a rental adjustment and they didn't. I can add an extra $5 rent charge to their account so I can collect the payment on that. Maybe I want to add a cleaning fee because they left some garbage behind, or even sell them some merchandise. I can add charges to the account here. The price will show there. If it's merchandise, you can adjust the quantity. So if they're buying 4 boxes, I can change the quantity to 4, and it will do the math for you to get the final price. The description is what will show on the page for your charge. So, back to the example of a cleaning charge, we can say garbage left behind. And then that's what will show in the note in the ledger here for when you're auditing this later on, so you know what's going on there. Same with the Create Credits. You will pick the SKU that it applies to, put in the amount and the description to show there on the ledger. We do have this extra option for the categories, from the reason category and the reason. Those will show on the reports, a credit reasons report, where it audits these adjustments. So you can kind of look for all of the people getting manual credits. So you will just want to pick a category and then also put in your reason. So the description can say, $5 off rent, but then the reason you'd put in the long form note to yourself when you're looking at this at the end of the year. Security deposits is where you can edit the deposits on the unit. Really, this is handled automatically. When they move in, you charge the deposit. When they move out, you refund the deposit. You can always come in here later or during the rental period, click Create Deposit to add a deposit to the account. Maybe they vacated one unit and they just want to move the deposit to the other one. I could come here and create a deposit, and it'll add a $50 charge to the account that they can then pay off, or you can apply a credit to mark it being imported from the other unit, and it'll show they'll have a deposit on this unit. You can also increase the deposit amount, so if they already had one, you can add an extra charge to increase that deposit. When you're refunding the deposits, you have the two options: apply to account balance or return to customer. If you leave the amount and apply to account balance, it shows that you are keeping the deposit so that you don't return it to them. You're going to apply it to maybe the fees that are still on the account or any past due rent. And if you're returning it to them, of course, you would move that down to amount to return to customer, and it will log the deposit as being returned to them. The next button is Create Invoice. This is really for merchandise. If you want it to be a little bit more organized, they're buying multiple items. You want to keep track of how many individual items. And maybe you just want to get a preview of the total. You can use this to estimate what it would look like if they were to buy that many items. You'll click Save, and then it will add these charges to the account where you can go back to the payment screen and pay them off. The red X's here next to the action are where you'll be able to edit the actions there. We can edit the charges. You can credit them. Let's say we move them in and we meant to give them a discount. We can click the red X on the move-in month and credit it, and it will show it as being credited. Same for late fees. You can credit a late fee and it will show it as if it's been waived. For any payments or credits on there, you can void them out as well. This payment, I can void it and it will take it off. Cash payments and checks, you can just void them and it shows them as coming off of the account. Checks, you will have the option to bounce them. A bounced check will add an NSF fee if you like on there, and it will make the charges due again. For credit cards, it is integrated with the card processor. So if you void a credit card payment, it will issue a full refund to the card in the amount of that payment. If you bounce a credit card payment, that is if they do a chargeback. So if they've done a chargeback and they succeeded, they already got their refund. So bouncing a credit card payment doesn't really refund them again. It just logs it as chargeback, makes the charges due again, adds the NSF fee, that kind of stuff. Credit cards will have another option for return, but will let you do partial returns. This is good for after they vacate. If they moved out in the middle of a period that they paid for, you can choose to return 50% of that period, and it will give that partial return back to their card. The final thing on account activity is pending transaction amount. You can use these manually, and also these are how the auto pays run. So when a tenant on auto pay gets their statement, it creates a pending transaction for the amount that was due on the date that their rent will be due. So if this person was on auto pay, it looks like they wouldn't get one until August since they're prepaid. But of course, it would show what actually looks like September 1st, they would have that amount due. You can come in here and edit these. If you want the auto pay to happen on a different date, you can edit the process date. You can also manually schedule these. If they want to do a partial payment and, pay $25 today and the rest on the 12th, you can post a $25 payment and then manually schedule another payment in here to run on whatever date you need it to. The next tab is the lease tab. On here we have lease units. The lease units tab is the billing plans. You can edit the billing plan to change their rate. Changing the rate here is immediate, so if I set this to 80, then the next rent charge added to the account will be $80. I can edit the discounts on the account if I wanted to add or remove a recurring discount. And I can also schedule adjustments. If you click on Add Adjustment, you can select a future date, and you can put in the rate that you want to happen on that future date. Now, if you schedule them, they will happen in a future date, so the system will be aware of it, and it will be able to send them out notices, 30 or 45 days in advance of that adjustment. Whereas changing the price up at the top is immediate, and it's not really a scheduled adjustment. You can add extra billing plans. If they want to purchase insurance from you, we can add an insurance plan. If they want to add any other recurring plans, if you want to charge them a fee for leaving a car in your lot or anything like that, you can add extra recurring billing plans. Next tab is the Tenants tab. This is a bit of an advanced feature. I mentioned on the overview how there's the co-tenants. The lease tenants is where we set that up. You'll be able to put a payment percentage so you can split their auto pay amounts between two cards. One account would be responsible for 60, the other 40 or 50-50, however you split that up. The lease settings is where we get to very specific things for this lease. This person's monthly bill day being the 32nd, really that's a trick to do last day of the month. If it was first of the month, their rent would be charged every month on the first of the month. And if you want to change the day that the rent charges, you can change that here. So if I change this to the 15th, the system would do a prorated charge from the next time they're due until the 14th, so that on the next 15th of the month, it can pick up on full month charges. This ties into that auto pay example of someone on a fixed income, where maybe if their check doesn't come until past the late fees charge, you could change their monthly bill days. So, if you charge everyone first of the month, you can maybe have that one person prorate them to the 7th, so their rent doesn't even charge until the 7th. That way they won't have to worry about getting any late fees until they're able to clear that auto pay payment. We have the notice period. You'll notice that this is blank. So this is when they get their statements. Of course, you'll have your default where everybody at the site gets their statements 10 days in advance. But you'll have this one tenant who needs theirs 15 days in advance. You could change theirs to 15, and then they'll get theirs on the 15th or 15 days in advance instead. Of course, you can just leave it blank, and it will do the site default. Everything else on here really is a lot of custom fields. You'll notice the gate actions are here, changing their gate codes, or the gate status, of course, is automatic. When they go late, it locks them out. They pay up at rent, and it marks them back to rented. You can come in here to change that manually if you ever need to. Now, the custom fields on the lease are separate from the custom fields on user info. For instance, if somebody has multiple units and they're parking vehicles in them, you'd have their driver's license on the user info, but on the lease custom fields, you can put the license plate number because that's specific to what is in that unit on that lease. And then the drop down, of course, would switch you between your two separate units. The work orders tab is where you'll find things like your lock action work orders or your auction work orders. When they go a certain number of days late, they'll get those overlock work orders opened. You can see on my widgets here, unit 04 has, we have a work order there to overlock this unit. If I open up that account, you'll see on their page Alice Johnson. If I open her up, just want you guys to see what that'll look like. So Alice has an overlock unit work order that's pending. I can click on it to edit it. I can set that status to the status over here to completed, and it'll show it as completed. Change their status to overlocked. Once they pay up, the remove overlock work order gets opened, and then once that gets completed, they're marked back to customer lock. Now you can go tenant by tenant. You see I have my widgets over here that's useful. You can also open up the work orders menu directly. That's also under quick navigation work orders. And then menu work orders, manage work orders. This will open up nicely on your phone. You can walk the lot. Let's say you change the category to your lock action. Let's change that here. I only want to see my lock action work orders. They'll all be listed. You walk the lot as you're going. You just kind of check them off for included. And you'll click complete. It'll complete all the ones you've checked off. Even if you're going over your auction work orders, anything like that, this can be very useful for doing your facility walkarounds, because everything that you need to address while you're on the field would be here as a work order. Okay, back to my tenant. Also the work orders, they don't have to be specific to the tenants. You can add them ad hoc. You can add a maintenance work order. Maybe the door was damaged or the gate was messed up. You can set work orders up. They can be specific to the units. They can be just general for the site. You can add as much or as little of those as you need. Next tab is the correspondence tab. This is where you can see a list of everything that was sent to the tenant, whether it was an email or a print job. They will be listed here in communication. And the statements for the account will also be listed. Even if the tenant doesn't want the statements generated and sent to them, they'll still show here on that correspondence page so that you can grab them. Come tax season, the tenants will say, hey, it turns out I do need my statements. Well, you can come in here and grab them for them, or you can send them to their user info tab. They can log in to their online accounts and download them themselves there. This account here, this example does have some things in communication. You can click on any of the past print jobs to see what they were. If they were emails, you can click on past emails to see what was sent to them, or download any attachments, that kind of stuff. Finally, we have the log tab. Now, the log tab is kind of a list of who did what, who changed their billing plan, who edited their rate, who posted that payment, who changed this setting, edited that setting. It shows you the date and time stamp of when it was done, what was done, and the username of who had done it. This is very useful when you're training new staff. You can see who's in there, editing settings and things like that. The final thing is the paperclip up here for the attachments on the account. Now, we do have this note. I can edit this note, do not take checks for this person. That seems kind of like an important note. You'd want to know about that right away. I can change that to urgent and save it. And now, it's flashing red. And of course, when I come back in here and I open up that person, that note's going to pop up right away. And I can't do anything until I address that note on the account. I can close out of it and start working with it. But you are forced to see that it's on there. That's, again, very useful if you have multiple managers to assist with communication between each other. Maybe the supervisor can put in this note, mark it as urgent, and feel confident that the assistants will see that and know not to take a check from this person when they walk in. Maybe they've been bouncing checks too often. We can add as many text notes as you need, and you can also add attachments. So if you're doing online rentals, Your tenants will have their digital lease attached. They'll have scans of their ID attached and all that good stuff. You can upload images, PDFs, Word documents, however you're collecting your info from your tenants. You'll be able to attach those documents here. You'll put in a name for it to show and pick a category that'll help you organize them. If you have a lot of different, types of PDFs, maybe you'll want to log them as your insurance PDFs, your payment authorization PDFs, your rental agreement. And then when you're coming through here, you'll be able to choose, what type of stuff. It helps you find things easier. All right, that is everything on working with the existing customers. I'm going to go ahead and step back, and the next thing we are going to look at is the reports in your system. You'll have two options for looking at your reports. Under Quick Nav, you can go right to Reports. We have the Reports menu where I can see everything and download what I need. We also have, under the Main Reports menu, the Report Sets. Now, the Report Sets, we can set these up because every day you need certain reports. You want your available spaces list, you want your lock action report, maybe your daily walk around report, just so you can have those available. We'll get the set up with everything you need. You can come in here and click Render Set. It'll give you a PDF of that report with all of your custom filters. You'll need this report that only shows that information and this information. Ready to go. These can also be automatically emailed out. So your accountants can get their Friday reports. They can get their first of the month reports automatically in their inboxes. Maybe you have some maintenance people who do not have access to Storage Navigator, and you can have them sent out the lock action reports and things like that, so they can go out and place the locks in the facility and just turn in their reports to show what they've done, and the managers can come in here and check everything off and mark them as completed. Working with the individual reports, of course, we have the spot here where you can view the reports. You can launch the individual ones. It tells you, all the information that's going on. You get a description of the report. I like to click on Compact View because if you know what you're looking for, it makes it easier to scroll through and click on those reports. I'm going to show you the AutoPay Customers report. This report does have a filter for only show customers with a balance. If you set that to yes, it'll only show, people with something due. If they're on AutoPay and something's past due, that means there's something wrong. Their card is failing. So this would be your AutoPay failures. Now my demo site does approve everything, so I'll need to show everyone who's on AutoPay. The report will list out their names and show the last thing that happened last time it tried to run their AutoPay. Whether it was successful or if it was generic decline, insufficient funds, card reported lost, whatever it was, it'll show up here. You can click on their name to open up their account. You got their contact info right there to talk to them, get them on the phone, go to the user info tab, update their card info, and then just move on to the next person. The next one is the collections report. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull up collections. This is all of my late people. So I'm going to go ahead and we can set the minimum days or the maximum days, if you only want to see your super late people or your recently late people. And you'll notice I'm doing the output format to HTML. That's what's making it open up here in the window as opposed to PDF, which is for printing, and then XLS, which is good for working for. I'll leave this one in HTML and run it. This one's real great for doing your collections calls. We can scroll down and see everyone who's late. We have their contact info for getting them on the phone. They answer the phone. I can click on their name to collect their payment and then keep moving on. They don't answer. I just keep scrolling. I can see how much of their balance is overdue versus how much of their balance is currently due. I can see how late they are, if they have a promise to pay or callback date set up. their last payment date, pay through date, next bill date, all that good info that you could need when making your collections calls. The next report I want to show is the payments received report. This one is great for doing your daily balancing, right? You can balance for the week. If you balance for the day, however you do it, you'll set your date range. Now, I'll go ahead and change this one's output format to a PDF so you can see what it looks like when you're printing them out. This payments received is great for balancing with because it has all of your transactions itemized with the itemized totals. So I have cash totals, check totals, each individual payment, my credit card totals, and then the grand total of everything that came in. This one is great for balancing with so that you know when your money's coming in and where it's coming from. The final report I'd like to show is the company summary report. This one is a great overview of everything going on at your facility. We can run in cash basis or accrual basis, depending on how you do your accounting. So we are doing dual accounting methods, so you'll be able to pull the reports in whichever method that you are using. Set this one back to HTML so we can work with it in our browser. We have all of our payments that are coming in, so we know where our money's coming from. Since this one is accrual basis, we can see all of the charges that are being added to the accounts with our current month to date and our year to date totals. We also have things like unpaid charges, how much of rent is just a month late, how much is a few months late, more than 3 months late. Then all the good ownership kind of statistics, our occupied totals, occupancy percentages, total unit counts. We got gross potentials, vacant street rates, all good kind of stuff like that. Right, the final area that we show in the trainings is the bank register area. Now there are a few sections of the reports that do rely on this bank register. Now the deposits for your credit cards, of course, get made automatically. Every day, the cards batches balance out, so the deposits just get created. But for your cash and your checks, you will need to come in here and create those ones manually. We have the total here that'll show up. This is how much cash that has been collected that's waiting to be showed as deposited. Any checks would show up here for us to select from the list and include. We can save that bank deposit. And then it's just nice to have something that will match up, with your actual bank deposits. Maybe you don't actually take the cash or the checks down until Fridays. So the money sits in the drawer. On Fridays, you create the deposit slip, and now your numbers will match your bank because that's when the money actually was deposited to the bank, because you've made this slip and told the system when it's happened. All right, that is everything that you need to know for Storage Navigator. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to support. We look forward to working with you.